At 78, Sally Field names the 7 actors she wanted to date hardest. She captured America's heart as the flying nun won our respect with 2 Academy Awards. And at 78 years old, Sally Field remains one of Hollywood's most beloved treasures. With a career spanning over 6 decades, she's worked alongside some of the most desirable leading men in film history. But now, in a rare moment of candid reflection, Sally Field has revealed something her fans have always wondered: the 7 Hollywood heartthrobs she most wanted to date. These aren't just any actors. They're the men who defined masculinity for an entire generation, whose posters adorned bedroom walls, and whose smoldering gazes made audiences weak at the knees. From passionate real-life romances to secret crushes that never materialized. Sally's list gives us a fascinating glimpse into the heart of a woman who has always been much more than just the girl next door. What makes an actor irresistible? Is it those piercing eyes that seem to look right through the camera? That distinctive voice that sends shivers down your spine? Or perhaps it's that ineffable star quality, the kind you can't manufacture or fake. Today, we're going to explore the 7 men who made Sally Field's heart race the fastest throughout her legendary career. From steamy on-screen chemistry that spilled into real life to admiring glances from across crowded award ceremonies, these stories will make you see one of America's sweethearts and the men she admired in a whole new light. So settle in as we count down the 7 Hollywood leading men who captured the imagination of one of our most enduring stars. And trust me, number 1 on this list is going to make you say, "I can't believe they never got together." But first, let's start with the man who actually did win Sally's heart, at least for a time. 7. Burt Reynolds. The real-life romance that burned too bright. If you were alive in the late 1970s, you couldn't miss them. Sally Field and Burt Reynolds were Hollywood's golden couple, a pairing that seemed to have everything. The rugged machismo of Reynolds with his trademark mustache and cocky laugh perfectly complemented Field's girl-next-door charm and undeniable talent. But their relationship was far more complicated and ultimately heartbreaking than many fans ever realized. Their romance began on the set of Smokey Yokey and the Bandit in 1977. Reynolds was already a massive box office draw, the quintessential alpha male of American cinema who could fill theater seats with just his name on the marquee. Field, meanwhile, was fighting to shed her wholesome image from roles like Gidget and the Flying Nun. The attraction between them was immediate and electric. There was something about him. Sally once revealed in an interview with Diane Sawyer, "The camera absolutely loved him, and so did I. There was this chemistry that you couldn't deny. This spark that lit up the moment he walked into a room." For nearly 5 years, they were inseparable, starring together in 4 films that showcased their undeniable chemistry. Smokey and the Bandit, Smokey Yokey and the Bandit 2, The End, and Hooper. Their real-life relationship enhanced their on-screen performances, making audiences feel like they were glimpsing something authentic and special. But beneath the surface, troubles were brewing. Reynolds, at the height of his fame, struggled with the pressures of stardom. Turning to prescription painkillers after a jaw injury, his jealousy and controlling behavior began to suffocate Field, who was coming into her own as a serious dramatic actress. The breaking point came just as Sally's career reached new heights. In 1979, she won her first Oscar for Norma Rae, a performance that established her as one of Hollywood's finest actresses. Reynolds, rather than celebrating her achievement, reportedly felt threatened by her success. As her star ascended, their relationship crumbled. Years after their split, Reynolds would call Field the love of my life in his 2015 memoir, expressing regret over losing her. Sally's response was more measured, acknowledging their passionate connection while recognizing its ultimate toxicity. "We had a real relationship, not a Hollywood romance," she wrote in her own memoir in pieces. "It was complex, and not without its troubles, but it was very real." What makes this relationship so fascinating isn't just that it happened, but that decades later, both stars still spoke of it with such emotional rawness. Reynolds, until his death in 2018, continued to name Field as the one who got away. And Field, while clear about their problems, has never denied the powerful pull he had over her. Their story isn't just a Hollywood romance. It's a cautionary tale about how passion alone isn't enough to sustain love. But it also speaks to the lasting impact certain people can have on our lives, even long after the relationship has ended. For Sally Field, Burt Reynolds represented a pivotal chapter in her personal story. A love that burned too bright to last, but too significant to ever fully forget. But Reynolds wasn't the only leading man to catch Sally's eye. Let's move on to number 6 on her list. A blue-eyed legend whose appeal transcended generations. 6. Paul Newman. The unattainable, blue-eyed dream. Some crushes remain forever in the realm of fantasy. Distant stars we can admire but never reach. For Sally Field, Paul Newman represented that kind of idealized attraction. With his famously piercing blue eyes, chiseled features, and effortless cool, Newman wasn't just a movie star. He was a cultural icon whose appeal spanned decades. Paul Newman was the kind of actor who made everyone around him better. Sally once remarked during a Hollywood tribute, "And those eyes, well, they weren't just blue. They were truthful. When he looked at you, even on screen, you felt like he was really seeing you." Though they never starred in a film together, Sally and Paul crossed paths numerous times throughout their careers at award ceremonies, charity events, and industry gatherings. The mutual respect between them was evident, with Newman reportedly praising Field's performances in Norma Rae and Places in the Heart. What made Newman particularly appealing wasn't just his physical attributes, though those certainly didn't hurt, but the depth and complexity he brought to his roles. From Cool Hand Luke to The Verdict, Newman portrayed men with moral ambiguity and inner conflict, qualities that resonated with Field's own approach to acting. Unlike many of his contemporaries, Newman's off-screen persona matched his on-screen appeal. His 50-year marriage to Joanne Woodward became Hollywood's gold standard for commitment, proving that lasting love was possible even amid the temptations of fame. His dedication to philanthropy, particularly through his Newman's Own Food Company that donated all profits to charity, showcased a social conscience that aligned with Field's own activism. "I think what made Paul so special wasn't just how he looked," Sally explained during a Turner Classic Movies interview. "It was who he was as a person, his integrity, his commitment to his craft, and his causes. That's what made him truly sexy." While Newman was firmly committed to Woodward throughout his life, it didn't stop generations of actresses, Sally included, from admiring him from afar. He represented something increasingly rare in Hollywood: the complete package of talent, looks, integrity, and longevity. When Newman passed away in 2008, Field was among the many industry colleagues who paid tribute to his legacy. "There was no one quite like him," she said. "He set the standard, not just for how to be a movie star, but how to be a good human being. That's a much harder role to play." Paul Newman may have been the unattainable dream, the perfect movie star crush who remained safely in the realm of fantasy. But our next contender on Sally's list represents something different. The rugged action hero whose gruff charm made him Hollywood's most bankable star throughout the 1980s. 5. Harrison Ford. The reluctant sex symbol. Harrison Ford and Sally Field never shared the screen, but that didn't stop her from joining the millions of women worldwide who fell under the spell of Han Solo and Indiana Jones. Ford represented a new kind of leading man in Hollywood. Rugged but vulnerable, heroic yet flawed, and Sally wasn't immune to his considerable charms. "Harrison Ford is ridiculously hot," Sally once candidly admitted during a rapid-fire interview segment on Watch What Happens, live with Andy Cohen. The audience erupted in agreement, and Sally's knowing smile said it all. Some attractions are simply universal. What made Ford particularly appealing to someone like Field was likely his approach to fame. Like Sally, Harrison was known for valuing the craft over the celebrity, the work over the spotlight. Both actors came up through the industry at roughly the same time, with Ford famously working as a carpenter between acting jobs, before Star Wars catapulted him to global fame in 1977, while Field was collecting her first Oscar for Norma Rae. Ford was cracking his bullwhip as Indiana Jones. They represented two sides of Hollywood in the early 1980s. She, The serious, dramatic actress, he, the blockbuster action hero. Yet both brought an authenticity and lack of pretension to their work that set them apart from their peers. I think what's attractive about Harrison isn't just the obvious, Sally explained in a retrospective about 1980s cinema. It's that he never seemed to buy into his own hype. There's something very appealing about someone who can be the biggest movie star in the world and still seem like they'd rather be building furniture in their workshop. The timing never aligned for these two to work together. Despite both having lengthy relationships with some of the same studios and directors, one can only imagine the chemistry they might have, Gene.